This Shabbos has been designated by the Chofetz Chaim Heritage Foundation, not to be confused with the Chofetz Chaim Yeshiva, two separate wonderful organizations, but the Chofetz Chaim Heritage Foundation, and very logically, has chosen Parsha Tazria Mitzorah to talk about the concept of Shmiras HaLashon, the concept of Lashon Hara, the concept of watching what one says, the damaging speech, and clearly Tazria Mitzorah is a logical parsha because of the fact that Tzaras resulted from that Aveira, as we know from Chazal. That's why over 500 Rabbanim throughout the country are going to be speaking on Shabbos, so if you are one of those special teenagers that actually stays inside for the drasha, and you actually hear what the Rav has to say, okay, he was one of those guys, he will hear probably, very good chance he'll be hearing some kind of drasha about Shmiras HaLashon. And clearly it's a subject that we do talk about often and needs constant focus. I want to come at it from a little bit of a different direction because there's certainly many ways one can speak about Shmiras HaLashon. Many different angles, and certainly the most obvious one, of course, is just the devastation, the horror that it wreaks on a community, and what we've seen throughout Jewish history of what Lashon Hara does to Klal Yisrael. But I want to this morning maybe approach it from a different direction, a different angle. An angle, I think you have enough seats here. An angle that I think we need to hear, because I don't want to go over any of the questions last night during Mishmar, but I sort of sensed from my Mishmar discussion last night with my students that when it comes to the issue of marriage and relationships and intimacy, that there's so much misinformation, so much distortion, even amongst kids in a frum school who have gone through to frum schools and have been educated in the Jewish day school system. There's still so much that they don't really understand, and I'm not going to obviously go through it all now. And it's hard. I don't even know what is not understood. I just got a glimpse of the misinformation last night. But I'm thinking that somehow there needs to be some type of sort of just general curriculum, just informing people of some of the things that they're not aware of that somehow distort one's view of a Torah life, which is really sad. We have to deal with that, and I would encourage you, if you have any questions, ask your Rebbe, ask people who you trust, ask people who know, because certainly the images that are portrayed by the secular world about Torah life, and somehow it infiltrates what we're thinking and how we view it, creates a lot of problems for us, and it's very wrong. It's very wrong. So let me just share with you one Chazal, Rabbi Say, one incredible Chazal that a little bit gives us an understanding of the sensitivity and the view of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's way of dealing with us, and really maybe the most powerful way of approaching the issue of Shmiras HaLashon, the issue of Be'er Chavero, the issue of how we deal with the people in our lives, is by looking at HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's really the thing we need to do in every respect. If we want to know what it is that we should be aspiring to, how do we conduct ourselves, let's go to the source. Let's go to the ultimate truth and the ultimate decider of what it is that we have to do in this world. And that's coming from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Avraham Avinu, when he wanted to understand what is my mission in this world, he looked at HaKadosh Baruch Hu and he said, what does HaKadosh Baruch Hu do all day? He does chesed. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu's involvement in this world is through kindness, by sustaining people, bringing them into this world, giving them breath, giving them life, giving them children, giving them opportunities to do the right thing. Well, doesn't that have to be my mission? Don't I have to try to emulate HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Mahu racham afato racham. So the idea of looking at HaKadosh Baruch Hu and how he relates to us is critical, not just in developing a love of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and to realize how great he is and how loving he is and how giving he is, but also to understand how we're supposed to behave. We're supposed to have an appreciation of our fellow Jew. And there's an amazing Chazal that I think takes us to a tremendous level, especially in the husband-wife relationship. And from that we can extrapolate to the way we have to look at the rest of the world, and how Lashon Hara is the anathema, the antithesis of what this is all about. And that should be the greatest motivator to run away from it as fast as we can. Says the Chazal, as we read about in the beginning of Parsha Tazria, why was bris milah on the 8th day? Vahi b'yom hashmini, it says, and you have to b'yom hashmini yimol b'sar lo. This says the pasuk in the beginning of Tazria that on the 8th day we need to circumcise our males. It's one of the big mitzvahs that we have. It is one of the defining moments of a parent feeling to bringing their son into bris shel Avrohom Avinu. We know the pomp and circumstance. We know especially when you go to a Sephardi bris, they're singing like a half hour before, and they're bringing Eliyahu Navi, and it's all incredible. So why the 8th day? Why not the 7th day? Why not the 6th day? And of course, you can imagine many different answers to this question, but the Medrash says one that's astounding, one that needs to catch our attention, and we need to think about. The Medrash says the reason why we have a bris milah on the 8th day, because you look into the laws of the Torah, as is expounded in this week's Parsha, again at the beginning of Tazria. Now these are not laws that apply today, because we know the laws of Nida take on different manifestations today. There are different rules and regulations for many, many different reasons. But at the time of the Torah, when a woman gave birth to a boy, she was tumah for 7 days. The dam Nida, the dam that was part of the childbirth process, made her tumah for 7 days, which means for 7 days she had to separate from her husband. On the 8th day, for the next 33 days, unlike a girl where the tumah is 14 days, and the time of purity is 66 days, for the boy it's 7 days. And then the 33 days of Tara. So says the Medrash, says the Chazal, would it be right, would it be appropriate if HaKadosh Baruch Hu said on the 7th day you make a bris milah, on the 6th day you make a bris milah? It's not about health. Apparently, according to this Medrash, the health of the baby is fine. It can manage a 7-day bris milah. It could have had a bris on the 7th day. So why wait to the 8th day? Says the Medrash, think about this. On the 8th day is very different than the 7th day, because on the 7th day the husband and wife are still separated. There is a physical barrier between them because of the laws of Nida. See, is it right, says the Medrash, for everybody to be celebrating, for everybody to be excited? Everyone's singing about Eliyahu Navi and welcoming Eliyahu Navi, and you can see the bagel, you smell the fresh bagels with the lox and the cream cheese, and especially if it's a high bris, you got the eggs going on with the pancakes and who knows what, the waffles, everything's like a Valley Torah breakfast, and everyone's having a great time. Okay? Everyone's having a great time. Is it really right, says the Medrash, that the husband and wife are separated? They can't have physical contact. The laws of need apply to them, and everyone else is having a good time? It's not right. Because Baruch Hu, I can't do that. I can't do that to that couple. I can't do that to the mother and father. So as a result, the Medrash says, I'm going to wait to the 8th. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I will wait to the 8th day. On the 8th day, there'll be no limitations to their joy. Their joy will be on the highest level. They'll be able to enjoy that bris with the full level of involvement and excitement. Because there's not a barrier. And therefore, I'm going to wait till the 8th day. But you stop and you think about what this Medrash is saying. What are we talking about here? Is one day going to make a difference? After all, she just gave birth. And it's 1 day. And they just had a boy. So the level of excitement, we have a child. And yes, okay, she's recovered, Baruch Hashem, she's healthy. A lot of women make it to the bris of their sons. They're able to come there. They recover relatively quick. But it's 1 day. And she just did give birth. And the joy, wouldn't the overwhelming joy of having that child come into the bris shel Avrohom Avinu be the overriding emotion of a husband and wife? Are they really, in their minds, thinking about any level of intimacy, or will it make it different to them if I can't give you a hug? If I can't touch you right now because you're in Nida? Tomorrow you won't be in Nida anymore. Tomorrow will be the 8th day, it'll be fine. So let's have the bris on the 7th day, and we can connect on the 8th day. What is the problem? Because Baruch Hu says to all of us, he's opening up our eyes, Rabbi said, to the vision of how we have to live our lives. The sensitivity we have to have. the kind of attitude we need to feel in looking at every situation. And this is something that we probably we never realize. So we can't, if it's beyond our realm to have that sense of empathy or feelings, okay, but a lot of things we could feel. And if we stop and we realize that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying to us, I so understand that husband-wife relationship. Not everyone, many people, oh my gosh, Nida, the laws of Nida, and they don't get it. And I don't blame a teenager for sort of looking at sometimes the laws of Nida, oh my gosh, 12 days, 14 days, what's going on? It's so difficult. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying to us, oh, I get it, all right. I so understand exactly what a husband-wife relationship is all about. I so get it. I so understand that the physical part, we spoke about this some months ago, the physical part of a husband-wife relationship is absolutely critical. And I so understand that I'm going to make the bris milah on the 8th day and not on the 7th day because of that aspect. But I also understand in totality of the husband-wife relationship of what it involves and what it needs to have. And the laws of Nida, therefore, while just one aspect of it, are critical to understanding and appreciating the ultimate love that exists between a husband and wife. And how that is able to add so much to the relationship. And now's not the time to really talk about it at length. You'll have plenty of time to have Bez Hashem Chosin classes from my Byron. Your Kala will have Kala classes from other wonderful women in the community. But just fundamentally, Rabbi Isai, the notion that somehow Torah doesn't get it, the notion that HaKadosh Baruch Hu sort of missed this, and he expects so much from us that he can't get into our physical emotions. He can't understand our desires, because our desires are human, and God is godly. So we're in the world, he's so removed and he's so lofty. And these holy Jews are so beyond any type of understanding that they can't relate to this. So I'm a little mortal me, I'll just follow my way of looking at the world. And I'll do what I want to do. I'll make up my own rules. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying to us, no, my rules are for you. My rules are the rules that you need to live by for your happiness, for your connection, for your appreciation of what a husband and wife relationship is all about. And when you talk to people who actually live the laws of the Torah, right now, you guys are teenagers, you're years away from marriage. But if you actually spent the time to discuss it with people who can explain it to you, they will tell you that these laws are so deep and so profound and so uplifting and so on the mark about appreciating that unique relationship between husband and wife. But if HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying, I'm going to go into the ultimate level of perceiving the slightest level of pain in the Jew's heart, it's imperceptible. Trust me, there's no way that they can probably even imagine that it makes a difference to them. It's one more day. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu goes way deeper than their conscious thoughts. He goes into the deepest levels of a person's subconscious feelings. And he knows that deep down inside there is a slight holding back of that simcha. The joy is not exactly the same. It'll go from 99.8 to 99.9 on the simcha scale. And that 0.001 difference, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, for me is a tremendous difference. And therefore I'm going to wait. And I'm going to take a mitzvah which could have been on the 7th day. A mitzvah that is an unbelievably important mitzvah. That's why a bris milah, for the most part, bris milah is in the morning. Because we have a rule, zriza makdima l'mitzvos. And that's why almost all brisim are in the morning. Because you got to do it as fast as you can. So if you do it as fast as you can, let's do it a day earlier. Let's do it on the 7th day, not on the 8th day. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says no. Because more important are the deepest emotions, imperceptible feelings between a husband and wife, that I will change the whole world and take one of the most critical mitzvahs we have. One of the 2 positive commandments that carry a death penalty. Only 2 positive commandments in the entire Torah have a death penalty. Bris milah and Korban Pesach. That's it. You can't really find a more fundamental mitzvah than this. But I'm going to wait a day. I'm going to hold off a full day. If the person refuses. The person doesn't want to. Right, that's the overt decision to not perform the bris milah, and obviously when they get older, they can do it. They can have somebody do it for themselves, and they refuse. It has, God forbid, the death penalty. It's kares. So, or on the person when he becomes bar mitzvah. So the point is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying to us, this is how you need to be. You can't delve into the Richter scale of emotions like I can. You can't figure out what's on the deepest levels of what's going on in a husband or wife's feelings like I can, because you're not God. But you are human. And you have godly feelings. And as somebody said last night, somebody asked me about Tzelem Elokim. Tzelem Elokim is not about the physical. God has no form. There's no physicality to God. But there is a divine aspect of our neshamas that is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that divine connection that we have. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave into us and put into us that feeling of spirituality, of purity, of kedusha. It allows us to achieve things that seem to be beyond our comprehension. How we're able to get to that level? We finished Pesach already, but it's a beautiful Pesach story. And it's a story really for any time of the year, because it really just reflects this idea of thinking about another person's emotions and feelings and connection. The story's about a Rav who was most nefesh. We heard a lot about the Holocaust and the serious nefesh of people who went out of their way and literally at the risk, at the danger of their lives, were ready to perform a mitzvah. And I believe the story goes back decades before the Holocaust. But the way the story goes, this is a well-known story about a Rav who went out of his way and put his life on the line to make matzahs for the people in his community. And he would distribute those matzahs before Pesach, one matzah per family, because it simply was not enough to go around. And sure enough, he distributes the matzahs, and if there's a neighboring town with a special Rav in that town, and his son comes, and the Rebbe who makes the matzah is so excited to see the son of this Rav, and he gives him the matzah. Yes, I'm so happy I can help you out. Here's the matzah. To make a long story short, that son of that Rav would not leave until he got two matzahs. He says, but I have a rule. It's a loy plug. I can't make any exception. I know your family's so holy and so special, but I cannot give you two matzahs. He says, my father said, you know my father. He said, I cannot leave this house without two matzahs. And very begrudgingly and reluctantly, the Rebbe who made those matzahs, who put his life on the line, who gave out only one matzah to every family, gave this particular son two matzahs. And he went back to his neighboring village, and sure enough, life goes on, and it's getting closer to Pesach, and Friday, it's Erev Pesach, the afternoon of Erev Pesach, and sure enough, there's a knock on the door. Who's at the door? The son of that Rav from the neighboring village. And he couldn't believe it. You're coming back? He says, you're coming back? Why? I don't have any more matzah. You know, I gave all my matzah away. He says, I understand that. My father knew that. He also knew that you gave every single matzah you have away, even your own, because he knew that's who you are. And therefore, I'm coming back to give you the matzah that you don't have. My father knew that that's the way you're going to operate, and that's who you are, and he didn't want you not to have matzah. So he insisted on me taking two matzahs so I can bring you on Erev Pesach back the matzah that your family could have. It's a unique story, Rabbi Yisai. It requires tremendous thought and tremendous understanding, but that's who we are. We can have that level of understanding. We can have that thought. We can have that feeling. We can think. And what happens when we don't think, Rabbi Yisai? What happens when we lose our godliness and we say a line and we have situations, and I hate to say it, it could even happen in the amazing walls and halls of this particular school, where all of you are very special and very unique and very committed and have great character. The fact that you're here, it says so much about who you are. But would it be possible on a given day for somebody to say a line that can cut somebody a little bit, to make somebody feel bad? Would it be possible to maybe crack a joke at somebody else's expense, or say something behind somebody's back that gets back to him? That they said something about me, they made fun of me. They said some lashon hara about me. Or they said mostly shemra, even worse about me, a lie. They made up a book just to put me down or to create some kind of negativity. Or what's even worse is you post something because when you post it's not 1, it's not 2, it's not 5, it's not 10. It could be millions and it could be eternal. Everyone in the business world tells me, you got to warn these kids. I fire people and I don't hire people all the time. I hear from business people because I just look and I search their name and their page and their this and their that and things that they put on and they thought they erased 10 years ago. Comes back to haunt them. That's not a guy I want in my business. I ain't hiring that guy, not for a second. Shidduchim, get crushed. We can swallow all we want, but it's not funny when you're that guy. And you say, come on. That's a post from 5 years ago. I'm a different person. I'm not that same guy who just didn't bother to think about what am I doing. And how I destroyed another life because I decided to make fun and post it on some kind of Instagram or Snapchat or whatever the crazy social media stuff is. That's not me now. Maybe. But I don't know that. And you know what? I don't want somebody coming to me. Maybe you're going to say it's shallow. You're going to say it's not fair. But you think somebody wants to engage in a relationship, and that's why bosses don't do it. Because I don't need the headache. I don't need somebody a year in saying, "Look what this guy did," and I'm now going to start dealing with. I don't want it. I need a guy who's clean. That's what boys say. And that's what girls say when they're looking for the shidduch. Not every one of them, but very, very many of them. I don't want any stuff in the background. I don't want to find some picture that I'm embarrassed about that maybe I'm not going to look at anymore, but somebody else is going to look at it, and then this is who you're marrying? Look at this guy. Look at where he is. Look at the company that he keeps. Or look at this guy and he posted something about somebody else in his class. He destroyed his reputation. He embarrassed him. He made him cry. You ripped the guy's life away from him. When you embarrass somebody, God forbid, Rahman litzlan, we know the repercussions. We know what that means. Why? Because you took somebody's life. You made his face white. And that can happen in front of him in a classroom. It can happen on the basketball court. That can happen 4 o'clock in the morning and he's sleeping, but his life just became devastated because you pressed that button. And you didn't realize the repercussions of what's going on, what's going to happen tomorrow. And the next day. Well, there's a lot we can learn from this craziness going on in Washington, D.C. without getting into it, but one thing we could all agree, left, right, center, you name it, we can all agree. There's no such thing as classified. We think something's classified, it ain't classified. Even at the highest levels of classified information, it gets out. And it destroys lives. People who are working for the FBI are looking at potentially 20 years in prison. Rabbi Isai, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying to us, you want to get it right? You want to get life right? Listen to me. Because there is nobody who understands the intimacy of a husband-wife relationship like I do. There's nobody who understands the emotions of a human being like I do. There's nobody who can give you a plan for happiness, contentment, connection in this world like I can. So why don't you just listen to me? When I tell you Lashon Hara is devastating, I'm not just telling you it's devastating for the guy, I'm telling you it's devastating for you. You live a life free of shmir, of Lashon Hara. You live a life committed to sensitivity, to connection, to appreciation of what I'm trying to tell you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to us. That's going to be the ultimate guarantee of your happiness. Lashon Hara destroys everybody in its wake. The person who speaks goes down with the guy that he's talking about. I mean, if anything, he's in the best situation. The guy who listens, the guy who talks, they're putting themselves in the most jeopardy. Kadosh Baruch Hu opened up our eyes, Rabbi Isai. Kadosh Baruch Hu's ways. One last quick thought, just to give you an idea of how far Kadosh Baruch Hu goes. Rabbeinu Bachai says in this week's Parsha, the order is reversed from the reality of the way it goes down. Tzaras does not start in the person's flesh like the Torah says in this week's Parsha. It starts on the walls. and then it goes to the clothing, and then it goes to the skin, and then it goes to the body. It goes in the reverse order. Why would you reverse the order, says Rabbeinu Bechaya? Why would you turn it around and give me the wrong order of the way it actually happened? And he says, you want to know why? Because I start with the worst. I bang you over the head and tell you right away. If I start with the lightest, and I go to the worst, it's progressively getting worse. That's a more serious, tougher message than progressively getting better. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu actually changed the order to deliver a message of Dorecha D'Achinoham. We say it every time we put the Sefer Torah away. Dorecha D'Achinoham. The ways of HaKadosh Baruch Hu are beautiful. They're sweet. They're pleasant. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is so interested in our emotions, in our feelings. And He's begging us, understand those same feelings with the guy next to you. Understand those same feelings when you get married and you have a wife. When you have children. Understand the power of a statement. The power of this connection, even for a day, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, is a major factor in my thinking. I'm going to change the day of the bris milah. Because you're Chad Achinoam. When we're on the outside and we make up, Torah says this, the Torah says that. First, let's get the facts straight. First, let's get right. Let's get it right. Let's not make up any distortions because we heard something from somebody over there. There's a book once written and this and that, and some crazy ideas that come into our heads. Let's first get the facts. But Rabbi said, once we get it right, if this is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells us, if there are laws of Nida, of Lashon Hara, of B'nai Chaveroi, those laws are Dorecha D'Achinoham. That's the essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what He wants from us. That's what we have to try to deliver. So every time we walk into a classroom, Rabbi Yisai, every time we have a discussion on a social media, we need to recognize we are walking on a very fine tightrope. And we have to be careful not to trip and fall in the wrong direction. Let's learn from this week's Parsha. Let's learn from the Shabbos. Let's join all of Klal Yisrael in a Shabbos of Chizuk to commit ourselves to a higher level of B'nai Chavero. And that's Chuspah Hashem V'Yizacha to be as a Mashiach Mehem Yamein.